Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are joining us from around the globe. We're going to go through a virtual meetup and live Q&A today. And the title of the webinar is Expert Tips to Master Your Short-Term Rental Pricing Strategy. So a lot of conversation today about pricing, revenue management, different tips. Hopefully you can all go away today with some valuable insights to take back to your businesses and implement them accordingly. I'll start off by introducing myself and then these two gentlemen with me today. So my name is Andrew. Everyone calls me Andy. I head up the customer success team for Europe, Middle East, and Africa here at Guesty, and I'm based out of London in the UK. And it's my pleasure to have been asked to moderate today's events. Joining me are two guests. First, we have Jeff, Guesty's Price Optimizer Program Manager. Jeff has helped shape the tool and its features. He's helped train and onboard hundreds of our Price Optimizer clients. And Jeff has over 11 years of experience in San Diego vacation rental industry, as well as experience as a general manager, business owner, and primary revenue manager in this space. And we also have here Jesse, Guesty's own expert revenue manager, who brings over a decade as well of hospitality experience, having scaled short-term rental businesses to over 4,000 listings. Jesse is one of the leading revenue managers in the industry, has managed pricing for thousands of listings worldwide, and offers a wealth of operational experience as well. So welcome to you both. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be throwing a lot of questions at you soon, so get ready for that. To give you an idea of how things will run today, let's take a brief look at the agenda. So we're going to start with just a couple of slides from myself, just to introduce the concept in Guesty, of course, just so we have some context there. And I will then lead into a presentation by Jeff, who will show you some of Guesty's revenue management suite and pricing tools, including some of those latest feature updates. We won't linger on that for too long, though, because the main attraction for today is our extended Q&A session. So we have a good mix of pre-submitted questions from you guys, the audience, and any sign-ups to the webinar. And then we'll also be monitoring any questions coming in the next kind of 10 to 15 minutes, and then during the Q&A as well. So like I said at the start, please do keep submitting your questions. So before we dive into the Q&A and the topic today, I want to just take a few minutes of your time to introduce Guesty to those of you who might not be familiar with who we are and what we do. So at Guesty, we provide short-term rental hosts and property management companies the most comprehensive and streamlined set of tools that you would need to operate seamlessly, bring in more bookings, create the best and optimal guest experiences, and ultimately would like to help you grow your business. So whether you're just getting started with a couple of listings, or maybe you're already a full-time seasoned property management professional and you're looking to scale, Guesty will offer a solution that's suited for you and your business needs today and as you scale into the future. And now it's my absolute pleasure to invite Jeff, who will be telling you guys a bit more about our in-house dynamic pricing tool, the Guesty Price Optimizer.
Thanks, Andy.
No worries, Jeff.
So a capable revenue management system provides property managers with the tools that you all need to fine-tune your strategy, optimize your pricing, and outperform your business and homeowner goals. At Guesty, we like to think of this as a pyramid. This pyramid consists of different layers. They each allow you to decide how deep you want to dive into. But looking at the screen briefly, you can see a simplified blueprint of our revenue management stack. This is the result of hundreds of hours of internal research with our partners and our clients. And overall, we've concluded the best way to structure and think about revenue management is to break it down into 3 layers. So the base layer is the bottom. This is probably the most important. This is where you'll spend the majority of your time. It's focused on optimizing your pricing, maximizing revenue, increasing occupancy. And that's what today's session is all about. The second layer are going to be your rate plans. This is where you'd increase conversion by offering multiple booking options, such as different cancellation policies, for example. And then the top layer are your promotions. This is where you create an edge. You create a difference between you and your competition. You can target specific audiences by offering coupons. You can add specific promotion, length of stay promotions, for example. This helps you increase visibility in search results and, again, stand out against your competition. So overall, dynamic pricing, just in general, it's a fully automated tool that utilizes various metrics to determine optimal prices for your specific listings. It considers factors like market dynamics, competitors' pricing, what type of inventory you have, where your inventory is located, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, what your amenities are, what your reviews look like. All of this kind of comes together and helps develop, essentially it trains our algorithm into how we should tailor your pricing for each of your individual listings. Overall, Guesty Price Optimizer is essentially a machine learning optimization tool, which helps revolutionize the way you manage your revenue management strategies. So again, the overall goal here is to help you maximize your revenue, boost your occupancy. What we're trying to do is we're trying to look at every single day across the next 365 nights. We're looking at it through one centralized platform, and we're trying to adjust your pricing to hit your optimal your goals, to stand out in the market, to maximize your revenue on those weekends and those holidays, those peak seasons, and also to boost occupancy on those off-season days, those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays when things slow down. It's not just about increasing pricing; it's about maximizing the overall benefit of how you would handle revenue management. And lastly, it will definitely save you time. If any of you have done revenue management internally without any tools in the past, I have. It takes up a lot of time, day after day after day, of looking at market dynamics, adjusting your pricing, adjusting your minimum night requirements to try to align with what's happening with the market. If you're going into your slow season, okay, we're going to start dropping our pricing. We're going into our peak season. When do we start raising it? This will help automate that for you, and it will save you a lot of time that you can then reinvest into your company. So overall, some brief statistics that we've seen just from our Guesty Price Optimizer users alone. We've seen around an average of 25% increase in revenue, 10% increase in occupancy rate. Again, we're getting those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays booked. We're getting higher occupancy in those slower seasons. We're seeing the 20% increase in weekday bookings, those Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays again. And we're seeing a 15% extension of your booking window. We are trying to align your prices with what's happening in the market. So getting those booking windows correct, which I'm sure our Jesse's going to talk about here quite a bit in the Q&A session, is really vital to hitting your goals. Making sure you're not underpriced, but especially not overpriced over the next 60, 90 days, whatever it might be. And again, lastly, saving those hours per week that you can then reinvest into inspections or into attracting new homeowners, into marketing, whatever it might be. So here's a tangible effect Price Optimizer has on our property manager's bottom line. This means a lot of people in our Guesty ecosystem are already using GPO, and they've incorporated this into their day-to-day operations. So here's just a quick overview of what we've seen with our users. Over 90,000 reservations made within the last year, just using Price Optimizer alone. We're seeing an average of 700 new listings per month opt into Price Optimizer. We do have a 30-day trial as well, so that kind of plays a role in people testing it. We have over 1,700 listings that are booked through the Guesty Price Optimizer within the last 12 months. And we're seeing 160 new clients per month join, whether it's through the free trial or converting to paid customers. We're seeing an increase in adoption, especially because, as we mentioned on the previous slides, this can help with your revenue management stack. It can help simplify things. It can help you understand what's happening within your market. So how does this all work? Essentially, Price Optimizer connects to multiple data sources. It will deliver price impacting data via our engine. And this is a process of millions of data points that we're looking at on a daily basis. From this data, we identify specific profiles, and then we try to understand the pricing patterns of those listings, of those submarkets, of those major markets. If you are in one of those markets, what is another 3 bedroom, 3 bath looking like? That's right down the street from you. How are they pricing it? How are you pricing yours? Let's try to look at the overall picture and understand what's happening as seasonality through market trends, through length of stay, right? So all of this helps us to develop suggestions from GPO that you can then incorporate into your pricing. For example, again, looking at demand, looking at seasonality, looking at day of the week adjustments, looking at local events or holidays. Additionally, Price Optimizer will take into account your interaction with the tool itself. So if you make adjustments for your pricing strategies, the algorithm will take that into consideration, and then we will help optimize the way that we, give you outputs on what your pricing should look like moving forward. So what's new? We have quite a few new releases. We'll try to cover them real briefly. We usually see 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 new features added per quarter. And what the biggest one that we've released here is portfolio management. This is a redesign of our bulk editing feature. This makes it really easy for you to onboard or to manage your listings. Essentially, what you can do is you can create folders, and now we can assign those strategies, those characteristics, those rules to a folder, and you can add your listings to that folder. So it makes it much easier, especially if you're adding new properties or if you're onboarding and you have hundreds of listings, or even just, maybe it's just 20, 15 or 20. You can separate your listings into subfolders and then add your strategies to those folders, drop your listings in. It's very easy to manage. In addition to that, we also have Jesse Brown here on the call. He is an amazing revenue manager. And along with our price optimizer, if anyone adopts GPO, basically you could have up to 40 free hours to meet with Jesse or our revenue management team. They can help you with onboarding. He can help you, come up with strategies, look at the next quarter, understand what's happening, and adjust your pricing strategies to whatever you're seeing. Adjust your minimum night stays, come up with new types of promotions to run. So he's a wealth of knowledge that we are offering to our GPO users for up to 40 free hours to meet with someone like Jesse and strategize and onboard and whatever you would need, he can help out. In addition to that, we have a few other releases that have been in high demand from some of our users. So one of them is the ability to adjust your pricing via day of the week by specific date ranges. What this means is if you've ever used dynamic pricing, usually what you see is you can adjust your base price. The base price is basically your starting point for every night, right? So you could adjust your prices up or down using your base price. That would control the entire year. What we can do now in GPO is you can adjust those by each individual day. So let's just say you spoke with an owner and the owner says, you're doing well. However, what we want to do is we want to increase our pricing by 15% on Friday and Saturdays. You can easily do that within GPO. The difference now is you could do that by specific date ranges as well. You could say maybe in our peak season, we want to increase Friday and Saturday 15%. In the off season, we actually want to decrease Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. So you can do these by specific date ranges. Again, like we can definitely sit down. If you're interested, I can go through with a demo with you to kind of explain this. But this is a new feature that has been widely requested by a lot of our clients currently. So this just allows you even more control than GPO currently would have allowed. You can do this by specific date ranges.
All right. So like I mentioned, we're going to kick off our Q&A. So this is what we'll try and have as the main section of our webinar today. You heard me just mention about the Q&A box. Please feel free to keep submitting questions. We all have our eyes on that, so we'll try our best. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I think what I'm going to do, Jeff and Jesse, um, there's a couple of questions here just that I think we can kind of get through quickly, just about the price optimizer itself. And then for everyone else on this webinar, there's some great questions about more generalized advice on pricing strategies, revenue management strategies. So we'll move on to those shortly. So what I'm going to do very quickly is just find, just bear with me, a lot more have just come in. So in Price Optimizer itself, maybe Jeff, you're best to answer this. Is it possible to implement a year by year price change to account for things like inflation? Is that something that could be doable in the system?
Yeah, there are ways that you could do that. You could do it by each individual month. We kind of showed there before we jumped into this Q&A that you could adjust by day of the week. You can adjust by month as well. I think the easiest way to adjust for inflation is just to increase your base price. No matter what dynamic pricing tool you're using, the base price is kind of the standard, the first, feature you're going to adjust. So you could adjust your base price. That would be the easiest way. As far as the tool itself looking, I mean, it's looking at recommendations within the market. So it could pick up if there's a higher ADR on average for the year, it could pick that up. But if you want to do that manually, you could use the base price. Yeah, increasing that by a percentage.
Understood. Makes sense. Makes sense. And then I saw one more that I just want to kind of move through. Hang on a second. Yes, here we go. So I know that seasonality is no doubt going to come up in some of the questions shortly, but there's a specific question here from Noel, where Noel's asking, can he have a different strategy for a unit depending on seasonality? So in other words, an aggressive strategy for low season rather than high season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have full control. So essentially what Price Optimizer will do is it will give you a recommendation for each of your properties that you can then tweak. However, you have full control to adjust seasonality, to add events, to again adjust by day of the weeks that we've showed you. In addition, I think I can kind of preview what we're doing in Q4 is you will also have the ability to build your own market, for example. So right now you're tweaking our recommendation. In Q4 here, there is the possibility that you'd be able to just build your own market as well. And just, I have all this internal data and this knowledge within my market, and I want to build my own trend lines. You can do that. You'll be able to do that soon. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, Jeff, for that. All right, Jesse, I'm going to bring you in. There's a question that I think is a great question to get us started on a more general basis here. So let's say I was a property manager new to the space, and let's assume I'm not too familiar with dynamic pricing, the concept of that. I'd like to ask kind of what are your recommendations for getting started? What would be an actionable piece of advice that you would give to me who I'm looking to improve my revenue management strategy?
For sure. Yeah. Thanks, Andrew, for the question. I think the first step is just to get started. Sometimes with new tools, or if you're not familiar with dynamic pricing, just getting started is a great first step. Price Optimizer is obviously a great tool. It's relatively simple to get started. So just taking the leap if you're not already using dynamic pricing. But assuming you've taken the leap, one of the first things I do when I work with users is just make sure that when we're comparing ourselves, we're doing it correctly against a great comp set. So Price Optimizer has a great competitive benchmarking tool. And so just making sure that anytime we're looking at our performance or occupancy, our nightly rates, and then our RevPAR numbers, that those are being compared against actual market competitors. And we can do that by selecting an actual competitor benchmarking group that really does fit with our specific listing. So I would say the main, jump in, and then two, make sure we're comparing our performance against like listings.
Understood. Understood. All right, perfect. And then, okay, so let's again assume that, okay, so I've taken that jump, I've got a dynamic pricing tool, either to yourself or Jesse. What would you say would be the most important or impactful settings to use for my pricing tool? Any tips on timing for discounts, seasonality, etc.?
Yeah, I'll jump in and then pass it off to Jeff. But I mean, some of the most not necessarily basic, but like the core features of dynamic pricing tool and of course price optimizer is our price limits, both minimum and maximum. Usually minimums are a bit more important to us than maximums. And so making sure those are set and potentially change based on the time period. We've got some users who are fine with maybe a lower minimum during a slow season and maybe want to push up their minimums during a high season. Obviously, making sure we have tailored our base rate in a way that is in alignment with the market, so we're not overpriced or underpriced. So we have competitive rates across the length of an entire year. So those are kind of like our most basic things that keep Price Optimizer and any pricing tool kind of in alignment with where we need to be. And then yeah, pass it off to Jeff if you want to come up with some more as well.
Yeah, kind of my favorite thing to do, and this just having, managed properties here in San Diego for a while, is I like to be more aggressive than the algorithm is sometimes, especially in the off season when things slow down. So what you can do is, we have a setting where demand is accounted for. We're looking at demand in the market. However, we can do a manual override to this where we can only look at demand at your specific listing. And so here's where you could say, all right, maybe I have 5 listings in my portfolio that we struggle to get booked in the off season, or just in general. You just want to be more aggressive than the algorithm is. What you can do is it's almost like an old school hotel RMS style where we can say, based on our occupancy at this listing over these specific booking windows from today, we can tell the algorithm what it should do. So for example, if we were under 25% occupancy over the next week, we want to slash our prices and discount by 30%. Versus if we were at 70% occupancy, maybe that turns into a 10% markup. So I like to use this feature, especially in the off season. What I like to do is I'm trying to use occupancy to drive our revenue in the off season for any listings I manage, especially maybe the ones that are smaller that aren't luxury, or they're not waterfront, or they're not downtown, right? They're not a prime property. You can use this tool to help you eliminate a lot of those manual adjustments maybe you're making every day, where you're just looking at your calendar or you're looking at your dynamic pricing tool and you're changing the pricing manually. This can do it for you. You're giving it the inputs to push out new pricing, to slash pricing, to increase pricing based on your occupancy. So that's my favorite personally. But I mean, everything that Jesse mentioned, again, those are the basics. You need to get that down first before anything else can really help you.
All right, great. Hopefully that provides some good insights for people who are newer to revenue management with dynamic pricing tools. I have a great question on a pre-submitted one, but I've seen a couple of Q&As come in, and I want to kind of tackle a few of them at once here. And it's about the data that Price Optimizer draws on. Okay, so again, Jeff, maybe more of a technical question for yourself. Yeah. I'm going to read out one of the questions, and I think it covers a few. So, kind of when or how do we gather information, and on what data is Price Optimizer drawing and presenting its recommendations to our property management companies?
Yeah, it's a really important question, actually. So what we do is we have 2 third-party data sources that we will receive data from. Currently, it's going to be the majority of Airbnb and Vrbo. Hopefully, by the end of the year, we can work out something to add Booking.com data into this. But the majority is coming from Airbnb and Vrbo. So we have those 2 third-party data sources, and we're going to combine that with our own internal Guesty data. Now, the Guesty data we know everything about. It's from multiple different platforms. We know, the taxes that were paid on it. We know the booking window. We know the fees. We know everything about that. So we have these 3 data sources, and then what we'll do is we'll start clustering. So we're going to break it out by what market you're in, where you're at within that market. And then, as I mentioned previously, bedroom, bathroom, amenity, review score, pricing model, all of these will play a role. So yeah, we do have some data that's coming in externally, but we also have a wealth of data within Guesty itself that we can combine that with.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much, Jeff. That does answer quite a few, I believe. I also want to pick up on something here. Hopefully you can answer this question. I think it's I think it's quite a good question. So, one of our audience members is in an area with a lot of volatility in their pricing versus listing quality. They're saying it's hard to navigate the changes and differences since price does not always reflect the quality of the listing. So I think the question here is, do we consider the quality of listings to make sure that the pricing suggestions are accurate? If that makes sense, Jeff, perhaps I can rephrase if not.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's where we're trying to cluster. We're not just looking at individual listings, we're looking at groups of listings. So, yeah, if it's a small market and there are limited listings, you know, that's where you might need to have a little more manual input into what's happening. And you don't have to go as far as what I mentioned using that manual demand pacing, but that's where you definitely need to make sure you're setting your boundaries that Jesse mentioned. You're setting your minimum and maximum price limits. You're adjusting your base price, and we give you the ability to adjust by seasonality again. So yeah, the small markets can be difficult. No matter what tool you're going to use, you're only as good as the data that's available. So, you know, being able to tailor that to what you want to do. I think again, that's what we're kind of working towards here in Q4, where you can take your internal knowledge and just say, look, I understand that the data is limited in my market, but I know what should be happening by month or by seasonality. And you can kind of build it versus tweaking from maybe something that's not as accurate as you'd want. So there are some solutions now, but there will be even more here in Q4.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Jeff. There are so many questions coming in. I'm finding this difficult to stay on top of. I think I'm going to ask you the question that I was going to ask you afterwards. Okay, so okay, let's let's look back at some of your experience. Jeff, I'll kind of aim this at yourself, but Jesse, please feel free to jump in as well. Even from your own experience, what would you say are some of the more common mistakes that you see property managers making when they design and implement different pricing or rate strategies?
Ooh, can I
Yeah,
start, Jeff?
go ahead, go for it.
Jesse
Yeah.
seems keen. Maybe
Yeah,
you've
yeah.
made mistakes in the past, Jesse.
I meet with so many people regarding their rate and pricing strategy that I feel like I've got a good answer for this one.
Sure, sure.
I'll probably have a lot of opportunity, and I'll sound like a broken record throughout this webinar, but I think just generally being price competitive over the course of the entire year and just making sure that you're not pushing rate too fast, too hard, even if it's far out, and potentially getting into a situation where you're playing catch up. The rate was too high, and now you're probably having to discount more than you otherwise would have if you had just stayed generally price competitive with your market. And the second thing, which is very related, is keep in mind that sometimes markets are not correct as to where the rest of the listings are priced. And so sometimes you have to do this thing called pricing against yourself and recognize, hey, okay, there's some historical differences here with occupancy. I'm noticing we're not getting the same pickup. Last year I was probably 30% occupied at this time, and now I'm 5% occupied, and so is the market. There just might be a general overpricing in the market. So the two biggest mistakes are, number one, just generally being too high further out and not being price competitive. And number two, only relying on the market data to make a decision on where pricing should be instead of making sure that the pricing just generally makes sense.
So I guess on
Yeah.
that, just before you come in, Jeff, I guess what can add to that is the system's going to suggest you the pricing, but you may know, so the system suggests based on market trends and the market data, but you might know a specific event, you might know a specific reason why the pricing may be better off slightly adjusted. Is that fair to say, Jesse?
Yep, that's absolutely. I mean, Price Optimizer will understand like increases in demand in a market. It will understand seasonality increases. It will already have built-in adjustments for your major holidays. But you'd have had users that maybe Taylor Swift comes to town, and maybe Price Optimizer might be underpricing, and so you need to increase prices for a specific date. And so, just like a general, almost like an administrative potential error, is just not making sure that those peaks in demand are accounted for and priced. Maybe they're a bit too low, maybe they're a bit too high, but just making sure that as you in the market local to your properties, you know probably best what how much you probably should be charging for, a Taylor Swift night. But yeah, that just in general, and I'll pass it off to Jeff because I'm either, he probably will agree with me, but just that general price efficiency across the year is super important.
Yeah, I'll keep it simple.
Yeah.
Jesse nailed it. Don't have a plan. Don't be afraid to adjust. Okay. Just because you got a price last year doesn't mean you're going to get it this year. Be ready to adjust, whether it's your pricing, whether it's your minimum night stays. You need to have a plan in place. And that's what a lot of our users have seen the benefit of meeting with Jesse. When they use GPO, they sit down and do a strategy session with him on, okay, let's look at Q1 upcoming. Let's look at the trends last year, what's happening this year. Like, come up with a plan and be ready so you know on this date we're shifting to plan B instead of trying to hold out for what we did last year.
Got you. Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to turn back to some of these audience questions again. There are so many. I think one of the themes in some of the questions, and hopefully you can answer this, guys, is look, Price Optimizer is one of the options out there in the market in our industry for dynamic pricing tools. Quite a few questions coming in are asking for comparisons between us and the likes of Wheelhouse, Price Labs, beyond it. Okay, so I guess the question is, what would you say might be an advantage of PMCs looking at Price Optimizer and looking to potentially use that in their tech stack?
Yeah, I think kind of what I focus on is like we have a lot, it's very similar what we have. A lot of the same features, in my opinion, just having used a lot of them. And I know Jesse can definitely speak on this. I think GPO is a lot easier to use. It's simplified just with anything in Guesty. We're focused on ease of use and streamline. It's very easy to navigate. It's very easy to understand what you can do within each feature. In addition to that, though, like just getting on a broader spectrum, I know I'm talking about Q4 here, but a lot of what we're building are things that are specific to like a PMS system like Guesty and less of a third-party tool. For example, one of the new features we're going to be releasing is an AI-generated length of stay promotion. We can do that because we have this ecosystem within Guesty and these engineers and all this data that we can sort through that, develop these specific tools that are unique. Then we could recommend, for example, a length of stay promotion. Or what should your minimum night restrictions be, right? If you're entering a new market, what does that look like? Now, again, these are still things that are being developed, but the length of stay promotion is one that's coming soon that is just kind of will separate us. Overall, it's all very similar. It's all about ease of use and how you can manipulate the data that's there for you. I think that's what GPO does a great job of. In addition to working with our revenue management platform and our promotions, is it gives you easy inputs to adjust. It's very simple. You can tweak your recommendations very easily. In my experience, compared to what I've seen elsewhere, it can be cumbersome at times versus what you see in GPO. I'll let Jesse can give his experience as well, but
For sure, yeah, I've used them all. I definitely think the simplicity in GPO is a great asset, and it's much easier to just jump in, turn it on, and use a lot of there's usually always some sort of recommendation that GPO is going to be able to provide, whereas a lot of the other platforms, you're having to kind of come up with on your own what some of these settings should be. And so just being able to turn on a system, have it make some recommendations for you, and have it generally work well is not something that you can do in the other platforms. And then I don't think it could be underestimated that just having the power of folks that know and work with property managers also working on the same tool of revenue management, that's just not the same for other pricing tools. And so, I'm sure other people have worked with maybe not even dynamic pricing softwares, but other tools that maybe have been built by folks who haven't managed properties or don't know some of the struggles of property managers, not really, for lack of a better word, getting it. And so having the power of that knowledge with GPO behind it also just continually makes the system better and work for actual property managers.
All right, perfect.
Hey, Andy, I wanted to jump in because I saw a question here
Oh,
in the
please feel
Q&A.
free. There are many that I'm trying to actively sift through as we
I
talk.
don't want to take over your role
No,
necessarily,
no,
but
please, Jeff, go for it.
I think this is a great question from Francine because this is actually Jesse's meeting with one of our clients currently. And Francine's question is she's in the city of Chicago. She is managing a growing portfolio of 30 plus night reservation requirements regulated by the city. So what she was asking is, can this system work for longer term or midterm stays of 30 nights, 60 nights or more? I love to turn this over to Jesse just because we have a specific user that he's currently working with to help manage this right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly more complicated in a way because the strategies are different for midterm rentals and short-term rentals. The best way I can describe it is in a short-term rental, a lot of times the band between your minimum, your base, and your maximum might be quite large. You might have a very low minimum and a very high maximum, and then a base somewhere in the middle. Usually with midterm rentals, that range is much smaller. We're usually targeting some minimum monthly rate based on actual market rents. And so the strategy change there is just dramatically decreasing that range. So, maybe it's like I'm expecting about $4,500 in rent for 30 days. I'm kind of getting probably a range between 4,300 and 5,200 for my general seasons. And then if you got 30 plus in a beach market and it's in summer, all right, now that we're going to change based on the time period, our minimum and maximum. So we're probably targeting maybe a $6,500 or a $7,500 monthly rate. So really the tool there is just updating our minimum, base, and maximum so we can kind of back into what we need as a monthly rate. Length of stay promotions on the booking channels can be helpful to drive search algorithm on the different channels. And then, of course, there's a ton of opportunity for us to change our minimum night stay in Price Optimizer as well. So between length of stay discounts, the min, max, and base rate changes, and then using obviously our minimum night settings in GPO is sort of the strategy that we implement.
For sure. Thanks, Jesse. Jeff, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I have a feeling this might be a feature request, but I want to ask
Okay.
because I'm so intrigued. Noel asks, are there plans or do we support or will we consider supporting hourly pricing changes on the day of arrival or, on the day, last minute, I guess. Noel's example is saying that he gets 50% of bookings in the last 7 days, 25% in the last day, 24 hours. So it would be ideal for Noel if he could configure something that would perhaps increase or decrease those rates from noon compared to 6 p.m., for example.
Yeah, this is actually something that we discussed a few months back, and we added it to Price Optimizer, maybe without everyone specifically knowing.
Oh, fantastic.
So what we will do is, we'll update every 6 hours. If you're using, for example, we'll update the listings occupancy. So we're looking at demand pacing specifically. There's a feature within GPO called demand pacing. And well, just kind of looking at your question, it almost sounds kind of like a hotel-ish or some sort of arrangement like that, where you have multiple units and you're trying to adjust last minute or change by occupancy. So what you can do is what I mentioned previously. You can use the demand pacing feature, the manual version of that, and you can set your markups or markdowns by occupancy. That will update every 6 hours within GPO. So for example, let's just say you had a 30% discount if you were under 25% occupancy over the next week. Well, if you got a booking that day, 6 hours later, it would update. And now you could have a different tier. Maybe that turned into a no markup, right? From 30% to 0. If you were above 60% occupancy, that could turn into a 10% markup. You can do that. It's mainly going to be through the demand pacing feature because it's kind of geared more towards like a hotel RMS style, where we are updating every 6 hours. We're adjusting based on your occupancy, and you're telling the algorithm what it should be doing based on your listings occupancy there. So yes, you can do that. It's going to be more so within that feature of demand pacing.
All right, perfect. Great answer. It's always great when we see a feature request that we've already delivered. So thank you for that rundown, Jeff.
Of course.
Then a quick question. I see one from Arturo here. So does the price optimizer consider the historical pricing and occupancy of a listing in its calculation, or actually does it not need to?
Yeah, I will look at that initially, and I'll kind of let Jesse expand on this. You don't necessarily want to just look at historical occupancy or
Mm.
historical rates or what you did last year. Again, kind of what we mentioned. Like you want to prepare for what's happening in the market moving forward. So I can let Jesse kind of expand on that. But yeah, I mean, any tool will look at some of it historically, GPO will, but the focus is on what's happening now or what's happening in the future.
Yeah, totally. Happy to take that one over. Kind of put in the same bucket as potentially a mistake to make when you're doing revenue management for yourself, is relying too heavily on what happened in the past. If it were that easy, we just wouldn't have a job. So it's definitely the way the market and specifically consumers are who decides how occupied and how much they're willing to spend for your listing. And that is a today, tomorrow, next month, next year thing, not a yesterday, last year decision making process. Folks are not traveling being like, all right, well, this place was occupied 60% last year and I paid $375, so this year I want to pay the same. No, it's just kind of based on actually what the consumer market is willing to, how much demand there is and what they're willing to spend. So yeah, obviously price optimizer will take into that account a little bit when it first starts, but its focus, as should yours be, is on the future pricing based on what the actual supply and demand is in the market.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Jesse.
Andy, I have one more here. I
Yeah,
saw in the
please
Q&A
do.
from Tim Howard, the great U.S. goalkeeper. I imagine that's him. He says, he likes to tweak pricing in Airbnb separately than Verbo. So does Guesty have a way to update both at the same time? And this is just kind of a general overall GPO. So what happens within Price Optimizer is we are pushing rates from Price Optimizer to your Guesty multi-calendar. From that multi-calendar, those rates get pushed out to those channels you're connected to. So if you tweak a rate within Guesty or within Price Optimizer, it will adjust on those channels automatically. Now, what you can also do within Guesty itself is you could have markups by those channels, right? If you want to mark up and offset the cost of Verbo or offset the cost of what Airbnb charges, it will automatically do that for you once you get those set up. So yes, if you're adjusting in Guesty, it's sending out to all those channels at the same time with those markups.
Well, there were quite a few questions about selling on different channels, so that's great. That's great. Okay, one more question or perhaps suggestion here, Jeff.
Sure.
A bit more relating to hotels, and I know it's something that we've touched on already. About Price Optimizer specifically and how it will handle a hotel. Could it take into account the property, the multi-unit, or does it still take into account the individual unit? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that is something that we've had quite a few requests to do. So for example, if you own a hotel or let's say there's 6 units in this building and you operate it like a hotel. They're all the same. It's a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. They're all identical. And what you want to do is you want to look at the building's occupancy, not the listing's occupancy. We are working on that here to develop a solution internally. Currently, what would happen is we're looking at the individual listings occupancy, not the unit, the hotel itself. So we are going to be building a solution for that, where you could say, all right, these 6 subunits are in this building, and we want to look at the building occupancy, not the listing occupancy. We're working on that. Right now, it's listing only. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Nice glimpse into our product roadmap there.
Yeah.
I think we're about there. We're almost on the 50-minute mark. Just a quick one from Noel again. He says, "What? Every 6 hours update is great." Noel and Jeff, keep me honest here. You should be able to find elements of the instructions on our help center, or of course, please do reach out to any of your Guesty representatives or to our support team, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction there. So give that a go. If not, seek us out, of course. And then Carter, will there be a recording? Yes, absolutely. This whole session is recorded and it will be shared with everyone shortly. All right, guys, we've rattled through lots of these questions. Jesse, Jeff, was there anything else that you guys would like to add before we kind of move on here?
Just real quickly, I would just say, look, if you're interested in using a dynamic pricing solution, or you're not using any right now, you should be using something. Okay, so we have an internal solution within Guest. So you should be using some dynamic pricing. And what's really valuable with us within Guesty is if you're interested in GPO, sit down and meet with Jesse. That is where you're going to learn so much. He's going to help you with onboarding. He's going to help you with the strategy. So I just want to push for that because I know since we brought on Jesse, we've seen like the feedback from our clients have been fantastic. He's done a great job. And I just want to highlight, like, sit down and meet with him. If you're interested, let us know. We'll get you in touch with them. We'll schedule a meeting for you. But definitely take advantage of his knowledge.
Just on that point, Jeff, how would an existing price optimizer customer reach out to initiate that? Because I saw a question just pop up about that one there.
Yeah, you can email me. You can email your CSM. You can anyone. Just go ahead and reach out to whoever you have contacts with, and we'll get you in touch with Jesse. We'll get you scheduled.
All right, perfect. I will just share my screen again. And at this point, I would like to thank everyone for joining. Thank you so much, Jesse and Jeff. I'm sure we'll have a similar one of these again in the future. So to the audience, please keep a lookout. Keep thinking of questions. Keep contacting your Guesty representative. We're here to help you. We, of course, look forward to seeing everyone at the many upcoming virtual events that we have planned for the short-term rental industry and community. All our events are posted on our website on the events page at guesty.com. So please check that out. And of course, for any questions about this particular webinar or any other Guesty event, please reach out to our email address at events@guesty.com for any questions. So again, we are out of time. I'd like to thank everyone very much again. Have a great rest of your day and rest of your week.